Hey everybody, it's Mike Venus La Soul, and I'm back. And continuing on my last video, right? Um, what I've been using, or I'll present this idea, right? So I've been making tracks with or songs or beats, whatever, with three tracks, right? I got drums, and I use two synthesizers. I use one to make a high note and a low note because I could make chords in a bass line or chords in a melody, but because I'm using synths, they're kind of very sonically rich. So I was like, okay, let me learn counterpoint, right? So counterpoint is like a old classical um, musical, I'll say, concept that was popular during the development of music as it is today that's taught in school. Now I ain't go to school, like no musical school, so I ain't take no classes on this shit. The only reason I'm applying the concept but not really kind of following the rules for say to the T or the letter like someone who would go to school is because it doesn't really apply to everything I do, nor am I trying to emulate that style of music. I'm just using the idea of counterpoint to be able to use two sounds and think of melodies than to think of chords. I can do chords. I can make chords, stack voices and all that. I know how to do all that. But being, I won't say limited, but choosing to pick three tracks to make a song, I was like, let me check this out. Now, oh my God, bruh. These people make this shit so complicated, bro. And this is what I was talking about, like the elitist type thing, because like I said, I'm an anarchist. I don't follow, rules are meant to be established, but not every rule should be followed if it doesn't make sense applied to the situation. So a lot of these rules that are in counterpoint, I might subscribe to it based off of my composition that I'm doing at the time, but I don't follow everything to the T, right? So I already know I might get some backlash from snobs and elitist uppities that might feel like, oh, I know all these fucking rules, and I worship these old composers. And I'm like, okay, before it get real nasty, if they was here today, right, and they were limited, right, because a lot of the reasons why they were developing this concept of counterpoint was because of the limitations of the instruments they had at their disposal, right? And they had to make compositions that were suitable for their listeners, which were paid by people who had money. You understand? If it was the Roman or the Catholic Church, if it was Roman or etc., or Orthodox Church, whatever, the church, or some type of monarch, some king or something that wanted to flex because he had the best music, and the aristocratic upper elite people will go and listen to these compositions and orchestras and operas of the works done by these people. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you get this type of attitude today from these people who study these people, thinking they know this makes the most sense musically, and not looking at it from when you go back and observe these guys, they were building upon things that were already established, but maybe altering it or coming up with new concepts that totally advance music and harmony and melody and how to compose, that some people kind of they missed the boat because they want to lock on and hold on to what these people were doing. So a lot of the stuff they do, I don't think they will have an issue with what I'm doing. Talking about the composers, they might even be inspired by what I'm doing, or they might just shit on it just because. But you can never say this is it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what ended up happening when people start trying to like make it or like police it in a way that is so like structured and this is the rules and if you break the rules you're not really doing, that's when stuff like this becomes dated, stagnant, and it's no longer able to evolve and develop. You know what I'm saying? So the way I'm approaching it is I'm just using concepts, or I'm more fascinated with the concept because I don't want to try to play chords on a synthesizer. It's just too much sonic um, frequencies playing, and it'll get super muddy. And I want to simplify my mixing. You know, I don't want to be in there, EQing and cutting up frequencies and shit. I ain't trying to do all that. That's not really my expertise. I'm just trying to capture a feel, write something that the listener can perceive as a pitch or sound, and that, the notes, when, flowing and playing together, creates harmonic complexity that isn't really chords. So, like, yeah, I'm dealing with like a two voice form of counterpoint. Will I do like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, whatever? Probably not, because I'm using synthesizers, and like it wouldn't really work. So like, main person, I'm kind of like observing, not emulating them or trying to be like them, but just understanding like, okay, when Bach wrote his music, he composed a lot of stuff on the organ, which I would say is kind of similar in sonics, but how powerful an organ sound. I don't like the sound of organ, but I know how powerful it is. It's similar to like the power of a synth. So that's what I'm like. Okay, well, if Bach was here today and he was working on a synthesizer because it's one of the latest instruments, would he work on it, and what would he use? Would he use a two voice counterpoint approach to writing on it, because you're getting all this like sonic complexity, but like besides playing it on one synth, you play it on two different synths, and then you can play the lead on a different synth and the bass on another, and still write great music. So that's kind of like what I'm doing with this idea, but I'm not following it to the T, because like I said, I don't like to be like dictated like that. Like I like the concept. I like what his approach to the instrument he had and writing good music to it, but I ain't trying to make that style of music. Then it's stuff like from the Renaissance period, which came before his time, which influenced him, where they were starting to develop concept of the counterpoint, where you had like multiple melodies played on different instruments that will not really be stuck to like strumming chords, or playing chords on a harpsichord or piano or organ or whatever, but these melodies will interact with other melodies to create the harmonic complexity overall, but everybody's playing their own thing, but it's in time. You know what I'm saying? And it feels good. So it's kind of like that approach. I'm applying that too, but I'm not trying to make the romantic era of music, or the Baroque era, or even the classical era like Mozart and all that, Beethoven and shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm just doing me. But that's the question, like, to all the like elitist, uppity snobs that went to school. Oh, don't even get me started on them studying jazz. Like, I'm like, I love jazz. I love the idea of jazz, like the music, making it do what it do. About like just trying different things and all that. But do I play jazz? Am I a jazz purist? No. I don't even know jazz standards like that, bro. Like if someone's like, oh, do you know how to play it? No, I can't play with you because I don't know it. I don't care to know it, but I like the concept of jazz. Like I like what got me into jazz was the different chords and scales you can use. So I was like excited about that, because I was like, wow, like I can really like paint this picture with these chords, and create this like this emotional feel with this particular color that I'll get from this chord, or what if I move this note? How would that sound? You know what I'm saying? And not just being limited to like rules and stuff like that. But I still, if the rules apply, I apply them. But it's not always fitting to every situation. So, understand that, because, some people might get it twisted when I say I'm an anarchist. They probably think I'm just like pure chaos. It's not chaos. I apply what is necessary, but what isn't necessary, I won't let nobody bound me to that, because that's what they know. And to them, that is technically right. But if it sounds good, it's good. If it sounds musical, it's good. And if I can explain what I'm doing, then it's good to me. You know what I'm saying? It's undeniable that it's musical. It's just that logically, when you try to format it, which I feel music to some degree cannot really be formatted, when you try to formulate it into this, like, these are the rules, and then whatever. How you think they came up with these rules? It's through trial and error, experimenting, trying new things, trying and developing new concepts, and that's an art that is missing in music education and in music today. You know, yes, certain, if it makes sense, you hold on to it, but if it doesn't serve you anymore or it needs to evolve, then either discard it or build upon it. You know, that's the philosophy or idea that I approach towards it. Being a musical anarchist. You know what I'm saying? I'm an anarchist anyway, but to my art of music. So that's what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I know I throw out the term I'm using counterpoint, but am I using it like these guys will use it? No, because I'm not trying to make that style of music. I'm just using the concept of counterpoint because it fits the instrumentation that's at my disposal. And I do it the way that I feel that it sounds good and it feels good and it's musical and it makes sense to me. And whoever, if they like it, they like it. If they don't, it's whatever. But yeah, like, and in retrospect, you not to insult people, but I'm self-taught, so like, I that's even more of a flex in itself, because it's like you got people who will go and like literally ruin their lives financially by going to one of these institutions, get all the creativity and imagination beat out of them with these rules and these strict, decrees that must be followed. Thus saith the musical gods of these eras, and that if you do anything else beyond this, you you are totally wrong. No, no, no. So, you know, I ain't one of those type of people. I'm always trying like new things, exploring new things. And this is kind of going into the subject I was talking about, like modulating. You know, if something stays the same, it's gonna die. It's gonna become stagnant. Life doesn't move like that. Art reflects life. Life reflects art. So that's what I'm doing with this style of music. Haven't thought of a name of it, but you know, it is pretty punkish. Punk rock in the sense, or punk ideology, which is dealing with anarchists. Because it's like I'm doing it myself. I'm challenging the authorities of the art of music, those who institute music, and say that this is the right way and thus it must be followed, or not. Ye are not of the musical caliber. And it's like, it'll be funny, right? And yeah, mock this or mark this, that these same people will be the people that will play my music. You know what I'm saying? They'll get inspired by it and be like, wow, I would love to play this. And then they'll come to find out, like, oh, who did you learn from? Did you go to this school, that school? No. Oh, do you listen to this person, that person? No. Then uh, what are you doing? Like, how did you? I just had these instruments and I wanted to do something different on it because of the issue that I was having with the mix being too muddy. But I still wanted to sound musical and I wanted to sound melodic, but yet have harmonic complexity to it without having to just go through the same chord progressions. I can now think of chords, but now in a more melodic way that doesn't really fit the rules of chords or, counterpoint to the T. I'm an anarchist. So Let me know what you think about this concept or what I'm doing. Let me know what you think about the music because I'm trying something different. I'm not, trying to make the same thing. And I'm challenging myself, you know, and challenging what's the norm. If you fuck with it, subscribe, like, comment. If you don't, and you still want to critique it,